appointed by the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, former special counsel for the House of Representatives, founding partner of the Geneva and Tensing law firm. Great to have you with us, Joe. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Lou.
Let's start first with this rumor. Well, it's a report by Politico that the president had already been subpoenaed and that they were preparing a response. I mean, this is wild stuff.
Well, I called the White House counsel today and spoke with Jay Sekulow, who told me categorically that the Politico piece by a former Biden staffer was utterly false. There has been no subpoena issued to the president. There is no litigation, which this former Biden person claimed there was. This is an outrageous piece of political hackery that Politico should be embarrassed by publishing. This guy runs, believe it or not, runs McClarty and Associates, which is a big lobbying firm. Now, what this guy is doing writing about a constitutional issue involving the President of the United States is unclear to me, except for one reason: to create a false story just a few days in front of the midterm elections. What a disgraceful performance by both McClarty Associates and Politico.
Well, Politico, they're not exactly what you would call a moderate organization when it comes to their news philosophy. Joe, it's great to have you with us, and thanks for clearing the record up on that. The president and his legal team also, it is said, have been working on written answers to questions from Special Counsel Mueller. Any truth to that?
My understanding is they have been thinking about some written answers to some questions. There's been no decision made about whether or not to answer them. Mr. Mueller is on very shaky ground. He's not asking any questions about anything that involved the president while he was president of the United States. All of the questions are relating to when Donald Trump was a private citizen and a candidate regarding the Russia collusion nonsense.
Yeah, well, you answered the question I was going to ask. What sense does any of that make on the part of the special counsel? This has become, he's trivialized just about everything associated with the maximum charter that he was given by Rod Rosenstein.
Well, this is an embarrassment to the legal profession, the Department of Justice, but make no mistake about it. Rod Rosenstein created this monster purposely out of pique. We already know that he was engaged in discussions with some corrupt FBI officials to record the President of the United States, and the President is keeping him around for one reason. He's got to get this Mueller thing over with, and when that's done, there'll be no Jeff Sessions and no Rod Rosenstein, and that'll be the best thing that's happened to this country in 2 years.
Yeah, it's stunning. The FISA abuses, I have to say that when Congressman Mark Meadows came up with this request of the FISA court to investigate whether or not the FBI was abusing the process, here we are 2 years into this administration, 2 years into the FBI, and 2 years plus with the FBI and the special counsel investigating Russia collusion. This is the first time I'd ever heard the suggestion that the FISA court could investigate it themselves and set the record straight.
Well, they can, and in fact, the chief judge of that court wrote an opinion just ripping the FBI and the Department of Justice to shreds in April of 2017, when she said there had been a consistent lying by the FBI and the Department of Justice under Barack Obama to the court. What's really sad is that Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions, who had a chance to fix this, have done absolutely nothing about it except obstruct Congress, which is one of the saddest stories and parts of the history of this presidency. They've stolen 2 years from this president by virtue of their incompetence and their political corruption. And again, I say with great regret that Jeff Sessions has been an abysmal failure, and Rod Rosenstein is the most politically corrupt deputy attorney general in the history of this country, and he needs to go.
And just on birthright citizenship, some counsel to the president. his idea of an executive order to lay a foundation, as I would understand it, for a challenge to the practice of granting birthright citizenship. Your
Lou,
thoughts on it?
This is a brilliant move by the president and his legal advisors. What the president is doing here is setting up a case or controversy under the Constitution, which can then be litigated. He's setting up a test case. And what he wants to do is he's going to interpret the 14th Amendment with an executive order, and he's going to interpret the 14th Amendment to prohibit birthright citizenship for the children born in the United States of illegal aliens. The Supreme Court has never ruled on that. So what he's going to do is they're going to deny a child citizenship who's born here of an illegal alien. That will set the stage for a court challenge rather than wait 10 or 15 years for, quote, the right case to come along. This is a brilliant legal maneuver by the president, and some of the people, legal experts so-called, who have been commenting on this are really manifesting an ignorance of how you set up a constitutional case that's simply staggering. I mean, I've heard a bunch of them on Fox, and I'm amazed just how really ignorant they are of the process.
Well, they must have been, I can't even explain why they would have been on Fox, but I'm sitting here trying to think who those people might have been, and then I decided to disengage from the enterprise. I guess you saw far more on other networks. Is that correct, Joe?
Oh,
I'm trying to lead the witness in case you're wondering.
They are everywhere. They are everywhere, Lou. They're everywhere.
We feel better about that. All of us here at Fox. Joe, great to see you. Thanks so much.
After 17 months of the so-called witch hunt, the Mueller investigation might finally be winding down. According to Bloomberg News, the special counsel is close to releasing that report on possible collusion and obstruction. But don't count on a November surprise. The findings won't come out until after the midterms, and there is a chance the report won't even be made public. That's a lot of hot malarkey. Is the investigation really coming to a close? And once it ends, will either side be satisfied? No. Joining me now, Fox News contributor and former assistant U.S. attorney Andy McCarthy is here. Welcome back, Andy.
Kennedy, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very intrigued by this because we knew that Robert Mueller was going to lie dormant during this critical midterm run-up. And I have a feeling that he's going to resume work in his little Keebler factory right after the start of December, perhaps. What do you think?
Well, I don't think he's ever stopped working. I think what's gone on is all the stuff that can go on behind the scenes. I really do think he's trying to wind down the investigation, or it's being wound down, whether he wants it that way or not. I think they nailed down the Manafort business right before Labor Day. That really took off the table any pending indictments that they had. And what we've seen in the last few weeks is he's kind of drawing down staff-wise. There's 3 or 4 people who've left his staff to either go back to their old jobs or get new jobs.
With the Democratic Party.
He's transitioned some of the cases right. That's right. Well, do you think they ever stopped working for the Democratic Party? That's I guess that's the question.
Come on, man. They're all corrupt deep staters. They're all a bunch of cockroaches. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds fine.
Right, and they're angry. Apparently they're angry.
Very angry deep state cockroaches who just want to bring down a good man, Andy. But let's talk a little bit about Rod Rosenstein, because he gave this sweeping interview to the Wall Street Journal. What do you think people expected that he would say in public?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they expected he was going to say the investigation was completely inappropriate and totally politicized. You know, obviously, he said it was an appropriate investigation, that it was done by the book. He's running it, so what else would he say?
Yeah.
Why
won't he talk to Congress?
Probably because Congress is looking into something he's uncomfortable with, which is the investigation in 2016. He's happy right now to talk about Mueller's investigation in 2017 because he can talk about these Russia indictments, which I think are really more in the nature of publicity stunts than charging instruments because everybody knew no one was.
Is the president out of legal jeopardy?
No, he won't be out until Mueller finally issues his report, but I think there's a very good chance that he'll end up that way.
Look, you, Andy McCarthy. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Special counsel prosecutor Robert Mueller is reportedly ready to deliver core findings on the Russia probe after the midterms. Joining us now is Bill McGurn, Wall Street Journal columnist. I want to ask you first, because you work for the Journal and you have a high standard for what's news and who's the source. What do you think of these reports we hear about what Robert Mueller is doing? How much credibility do you give them?
Well, I think we don't know. We don't know then. Look, the credit I'll give Mr. Mueller, I'm a big skeptic about special counsels, the idea of a special counsel. But I think that what he's doing is in marked contrast to what FBI Director James Comey did in the 2016 elections, inserting himself, making one statement, reversing it, then reversing it again. And I credit him for at least not doing that, not trying to be the big story in this election.
So you're saying that he is not Chatty Cathy, the FBI director, as Comey was?
Yeah, or some of Mr. Comey's team. I mean, Andrew McCabe is in trouble for that. And you look at these other stories around the government. The person on the Senate staff that pled guilty to charges of leaking, and then I think another woman from Treasury Department that was arrested today. There are a lot of blabbermouths out there, and really putting out, controversial
So what
material.
do you think are the odds that he's coming close to a conclusion? And, along the lines of what you just said, we're hearing that we're not going to hear about it until after the midterms because unlike James Comey, he doesn't want to upset it. Do you think that that's a possibility that's really coming to some sort of conclusion?
I think it's a possibility, and I think he owes it to the nation to come to a conclusion. I mean, I think it's outrageous for any president to have a special counsel sort of at his heels, nipping at it. It makes it very hard to run an administration to do this. And we haven't found any information in these 2 years that, to me, suggests President Trump was colluding with the Russians on the election. To the contrary, what we're finding about is all sorts of incredible activity by the Department of Justice and the FBI. We now have the head of Fusion taking the fifth. It's extra. We have the FISA warrant sort of discredited in many ways. It's an extraordinary chain. A special counsel is supposed to be appointed to investigate a specific crime. And in this, it looks like the special counsel was assigned to find a crime, and I don't think he will find one.
Who do you think is going to end up getting fired after the election? I mean, that was another piece of this story, is the idea that Rod Rosenstein is on his way out. I don't know if I buy that. You see him helping, with the last Supreme Court justice. Also, in this same article, it says that Rod Rosenstein's pushing for this to come to an end soon as well. What do you think his fate is?
I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. It seems to be on and off. The president doesn't seem to have any issues with him right now. So who knows? Look, the other thing that needs to be said, these are very high-pressure jobs. And, when I was in the White House, people changed every 2.5 years or something. So it's not unusual for people to leave or find something else to do.
There's only so long you can handle it if you're a human being. Bill McGurn, thank you. Always great.
Thank you, Melissa.
Multiple act of murder. But, of course, that doesn't stop the Democrats. And one of the things that's so absurd about this, I mean, if you look at the mad would-be bomber, Cesar Sayak, at least he was pro-Trump. He really was. Apparently he lived in a van that had a bunch of, pro-Trump stickers on it. But he was also nuts. The guy was completely ineffective. He didn't know how to make a bomb, actually. And it's a little unclear because the news reports are so confused. But these attempted bombs, at least, that he mailed out did no harm. None of them exploded, and I don't think they would have exploded or could have exploded. And so he's different from a guy like James Hodgkinson. James Hodgkinson is a rabid Democrat, was a rabid Democrat, a volunteer in the Bernie Sanders campaign, and he set out to murder Republican congressmen. It's only the miracles of modern science that prevented him from being a murderer. The doctors saved Steve Scalise's life. That's the only reason that Hodgkinson didn't succeed in murdering any Republicans. And I don't know if you saw the story. It didn't get much play, but a week or so ago, a Republican office in Florida, a satellite office somewhere in Florida, got shot up, 4 bullets through the windows. Well, the shooting up of that GOP office did more damage than Cesar Sayac's bombs did, and yet nobody tried to link that to the violent, extreme rhetoric that we are seeing from the Democratic Party, which tells us, among other things, that President Trump is literally Hitler, right? Well, the people who tried to assassinate Hitler are now regarded as heroes. What does that tell you? So that was ridiculous. But even worse, really, is the effort to blame President Trump for the actions of Robert Bowers, the crazed anti-Semite who shot up the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And that's particularly shameful for a couple of reasons. Number one, Bowers was a vicious anti-Semite, and he hated President Trump. Why did he hate President Trump? Because he considered President Trump to be a Jew lover. That's why. And there's good reason for that. It's really hard. I don't know how in the world these Democrats think they can make the argument that President Trump somehow has inspired the actions of an anti-Semite, a Jew hater, when his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who he appointed to a high position in his administration, is Jewish. His daughter, Ivanka, converted to Judaism. He has grandchildren who are Jewish, and he's one of the most pro-Israel presidents in our history. Now, how do you get from those facts to the assertion that President Trump is somehow responsible for inspiring the actions of this evil anti-Semite, this Trump hater, Robert Bowers, who shot up the synagogue in Pittsburgh? You can't get there. You can't get there from here. And yet the Democrats in the media and in politics have tried, and they have repeatedly tried to link and blame President Trump for those murders. It's just, in my opinion, one of the most shameful things I've ever seen in our political history. I guess one question is whether it's working. Politicians do a lot of things that are shameful. Reporters do a lot of things that are shameful. So the next question is, does it work? I think the answer is no. I haven't checked this morning, but I checked the Rasmussen survey yesterday morning. And Rasmussen Reports is the only polling operation that currently is doing a daily running presidential approval poll. There is, Gallup will publish a presidential poll approval result periodically, but they don't have a consistent one running daily. Only Rasmussen does. And yesterday, at least, they found President Trump to be at 49% approval, 50% disapproval, which is right where you would expect him to be. And so far, at least, I think we can say that we're seeing little or no impact from these shameful efforts on the part of the Democrats.
Well, thank you. Just calling to say that I think more of the dialogue needs to be on the history of immigration in this country, about what was done with immigrants as they entered the U.S., mostly through Ellis Island. We're being told that we're a nation of immigrants, of immigration, and that we need to be more compassionate and allow basically anyone in. But what's not talked about a lot is the types of physical examination and things people were evaluated on before they were allowed into the country. They were given short physicals, evidently on ships, before they were allowed in, to make sure that they were in good health and were able to work when they got here. And then once they got to the U.S., the doctors at Ellis Island and different people evaluated the people coming through, looking for any kind of problem they foresaw as to whether someone would be able to take care of themselves and their family. It even was to the point where if there was a problem with a member of the family, some families had to be split up, and a parent had to take whatever the problem child was back to
Charlie,
the home
let me
country.
just pause you there for a moment, because you're right. You're absolutely right. There was never the idea of, come one, come all. Anybody gets in as long as he can make it to the harbor. And in fact, there was a provision in federal law, and there still is. It hasn't been repealed. There is a provision in federal immigration law that says that you can't get in if you are, quote, likely to become a public charge. Well, that's out the window, right? I mean, for many people showing up at our southern border in particular, becoming a public charge is the whole point. That's their objective. And there's no effort being made to enforce that provision of federal law. If somebody doesn't have the means to support himself or herself, and is likely to become a charge on the public, that person is not supposed to get in. But this is just an example. People talk about our immigration system being broken. That's true, although not necessarily in the ways that some people mean when they say it. But it is broken, and this is a great example of how it's broken. We have a federal immigration law that is selectively ignored. Key provisions of our immigration laws are simply not enforced, and that should be considered unacceptable by every American. I think we got John in New York on line 3. Let's go to John. John, you're on the air.
Thank you. I'm calling about the immigration problem also. I don't think President Trump should build any tent cities to keep them people in if they come here. I don't understand what that's all about. Stop them at the border, turn them around, send them back. This country is based on laws. Illegal. If it's illegal and they're illegal, they shouldn't be here and they should be booted out. We had enough of this. Local cities are suffering because these illegals are coming in, using all our services, and those that are stuck paying the bills keep paying through the nose. Enough's enough. I hope this country turns around and gets Republicans and Democrats in office who care about running their cities and communities for the people that pay for it, not people that just come here and take and take and take.
John, you make way too much sense, okay? you must be out of the fringe somewhere. You make way too much sense. You know what you remind me of, John? Sonny Bono was a great guy. His was a terrible loss, I think. When Sonny was first running for Congress, a reporter asked him his position on illegal immigration. And he looked kind of quizzical. He said, "What do you mean? What do you mean my position? It's illegal." It's like, what part of illegal do they not understand? It's just unbelievable that we've got one of our two major parties that is committed to breaking the law. It's extraordinary. The caravan that has been making its way up from Honduras and is now somewhere in Mexico. They've passed Mexico City. I'm sure it's being timed to arrive at the border, a day or two before the midterm elections, maybe 3 days from now.